It's November 22nd, 1963, 12:30 p.m. in Texas, 6:30 p.m. in Britain, 9:30 p.m. in Moscow, and just past midnight in India. The President of the United States has just been shot. A moment that frees the world in disbelief, fractured a nation's sense of security, and ignited 1,000 theories that still echo today. From the smiling crowds in Dealey Plaza to the chaos inside Parkland Memorial Hospital, this is the timeline of a turning point in history, minute by minute, frame by frame. This is the story of the final 60 minutes of John F. Kennedy. At exactly 12 p.m., Air Force One touched down at Love Field Airport in Dallas, Texas. He was on a tour through several Texas cities, hoping to gain support for his run for re-election in 1964. Some of his team had warned him that Dallas might not be the safest place to visit because of its tense political atmosphere. But Kennedy insisted on going anyway. He strongly believed in meeting people face-to-face and showing that he wasn't afraid to be among the public. The President and First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy stepped off the plane to an enthusiastic crowd. The First Lady wore a striking pink Chanel-style suit, complete with a pillbox hat, a fashion statement that would later become one of the most haunting images in American history. Thousands had gathered at the airport to greet the president. Smiles, handshakes, and small talk followed. Spirits were high. By 12:10 p.m., President Kennedy's motorcade started moving through the streets of downtown Dallas. He was riding in a special 1961 Lincoln Continental convertible with the roof down so people could get a clear view of him. Sitting next to him was his wife, Jacqueline Kennedy, dressed in her now famous pink outfit. In the front seats were Texas Governor John Connally and his wife, Nellie. The motorcade route covered about 10 miles and was carefully chosen to let as many people as possible see the president. Large crowds lined the streets, waving and cheering. Kennedy smiled and waved back, enjoying the moment. He looked relaxed and confident, showing the charm and presence he was known for. It was clear he loved being around people and wanted to make a strong connection with the public. At that moment, everything seemed to be going perfectly, and the atmosphere was full of energy and excitement. As the motorcade moved deeper into downtown Dallas, the crowd kept growing. Main Street was filled with excited people. Some leaned out of windows or stood on balconies, hoping to catch a glimpse of President Kennedy and the First Lady. Children waved small American flags, and many people smiled and cheered. The mood felt like a celebration, happy, lively, and full of energy. But while the streets were full of joy, something dark was unfolding nearby. Inside the Texas School Book Depository, a tall brick building along the motorcade route, a man named Lee Harvey Oswald was getting ready to change history. He was a former Marine who failed an assassination attempt on General Edwin Walker just months before this day. He had brought a bolt-action rifle with him. On the 6th floor, set up near a window that looked directly onto Dealey Plaza, where the motorcade would soon pass. Oswald waited in silence, hidden and prepared to strike. As the president's motorcade was moving through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, a loud sound rang out. First gunshot missed. Many people didn't realize it was a gunshot. They thought it might be a firecracker or a car backfiring. Confusion and fear spread quickly as people looked around to figure out what was happening. The second shot came just moments later. This bullet hit President Kennedy in the upper back and came out through his throat. Sitting in front of him, Texas Governor John Connally turned in shock. That same bullet then hit Connally, injuring his back, chest, wrist, and leg. Though badly hurt, he stayed conscious. And came the third and final shot. It struck President Kennedy in the head, causing fatal injuries. It was a terrible and shocking moment. First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, sitting beside him, climbed onto the back of the car. Some believe she was trying to pick up a piece of his skull. Others say she was simply reacting in fear. Right away, Secret Service agent Clint Hill jumped onto the back of the car as it sped toward Parkland Memorial Hospital about 4 miles away, but the damage was done. The president was beyond help. Just 10 seconds, 3 bullets had ended the life of the 35th president of the United States. The nation was left in shock and mourning. That tragic moment changed the course of American history forever. As the presidential limousine sped away from Dealey Plaza, First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy held her husband's bloodied head in her lap. She was in shock, softly whispering his name over and over, hoping he would respond. She didn't want to believe that he was already gone. The moment was heartbreaking. She had just seen the love of her life struck down beside her in the most violent way imaginable. Back in Dealey Plaza, panic had taken over. The cheerful crowd turned into chaos within seconds. People screamed, cried, and scattered in different directions. Some dropped to the ground in fear, while others ran toward the grassy knoll, convinced that the shots had come from that area, not the building behind the motorcade. Witnesses shouted different stories, and confusion grew. Nobody knew exactly what had happened or who had done it. At exactly 12:38 p.m., just 8 minutes after the first shot was fired, the limousine arrived at Parkland Memorial Hospital. Medical staff were already waiting and rushed toward the vehicle as it pulled up. President Kennedy was quickly moved to Trauma Room 1. Governor John Connally, who had also been seriously wounded, was taken to Trauma Room 2. Inside the emergency room, the situation was grim. President Kennedy was unresponsive and had suffered a massive head wound. Blood covered his face and body. The doctors and nurses worked quickly, doing everything they could to save him. They performed a tracheotomy to help him breathe, gave him blood transfusions, and even gave him CPR. But it was of no use. The bullet had done too much damage to his brain. One of the doctors, Dr. Malcolm Perry, later said there was simply nothing they could do. The injury was far too severe. There was no chance of survival. The doctors worked with urgency and skill. They couldn't bring him back. In just a matter of minutes, the President of the United States had been taken from the world. Staff in the hospital would later recall the silence in the room when they realized the President was gone. It was a tragic moment, not just for those in the hospital, but for the entire nation. A great life had ended, and history had changed. Forever in an instant. At exactly 1 p.m., President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was pronounced dead. He was 46 years old. News of his death began spreading rapidly through the hospital, reaching journalists and staff. A priest was summoned to perform last rites. Jacqueline Kennedy refused to leave her husband's side. Her once immaculate pink suit was now stained with his blood and brain matter. When asked if she wanted to change clothes, she replied, "No, let them see what they've done." The president was being declared dead. Security around Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was tightened. Johnson had been in a separate vehicle in the same motorcade. At the first sign of gunfire, he was whisked away by Secret Service agents and taken to safety. By the time Kennedy was pronounced dead, plans were already underway to swear in the new president. At 2:39 p.m., aboard Air Force One, Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as the 36th President of the United States. Jackie Kennedy stood beside him during the swearing-in ceremony, still wearing the bloodstained suit. Her presence added gravity to the moment. A photo of that scene would become one of the most iconic images in American history. News of Kennedy's death hit the American public like a thunderbolt. The world reacted with shock. Tributes poured in from foreign leaders. Pope Paul VI, Queen Elizabeth II, and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev all expressed their condolences. For a brief moment, even the Cold War tensions were set aside. The hours and days that followed, Jacqueline Kennedy's stoic demeanor became a symbol of national resilience. She meticulously planned her husband's funeral, drawing inspiration from Abraham Lincoln's pink suit, stained with blood, was never cleaned. It remains preserved in the National Archives, stored out of public view, as per her wishes. It is a relic of one of the darkest moments in American history. After President John F. Kennedy was killed, he was buried at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. His grave became a place where people from across the country came to pay their respects. At his burial site, an eternal flame was lit, burning continuously as a symbol of his lasting impact on America. Even though his life ended too soon, many still remember him as a symbol of hope, progress, and change. His story is still studied and talked about today, not just for what he accomplished, but also for what he might have done had he lived. After the assassination, questions and doubts quickly began to grow. The official explanation came from the Warren Commission, a government group set up to investigate what happened. Their report said that one man, Lee Harvey Oswald, acted alone in killing the president. But not everyone accepted that answer. Many people thought there had to be more to the story. Soon, all kinds of alternative theories began to spread. Some believed there were more shooters, not just Oswald. Others thought the mafia might have been involved. Some even suspected the CIA or foreign governments. Witnesses at Dealey Plaza gave different accounts. Some said they heard gunfire from the grassy knoll, not from the building where Oswald was located. Some thought they heard 4 or more shots, even though the official report said only 3 were fired. One key piece of evidence was the Zapruder film, a short home movie that showed the assassination as it happened. It was shocking and powerful, and for many people, it raised even more questions. The film clearly showed the moment Kennedy was hit, but it didn't answer all the mysteries. Instead, it became both important proof and a puzzle that people have analyzed for decades. John F. Kennedy's final hour was filled with emotion. Just before the shots were fired, he was riding through Dallas in an open-top car with his wife Jacqueline by his side. They were smiling and waving to the crowds, enjoying the moment. There was a sense of connection between the president and the people. No one could have guessed what was about to happen. Even today, people still ask the same questions. Why did this happen? Was it really just one man acting alone? Could the assassination have been prevented? Decades have passed, and yet the mystery remains. Some believe the truth is still hidden. Others think the world simply refuses to let go of such a shocking moment. But no matter how many questions remain, one image is burned into the memory of history. A young, hopeful president riding through the streets with his elegant wife, smiling at the crowd on a sunny Dallas afternoon. That image is now bittersweet, a picture of promise just moments before it was destroyed. John F. Kennedy's final hour was not just the end of a man's life. It was the end of a moment in American history when anything felt possible. In that single hour, the world changed. A dream was lost, and history took a new path. His death marked the end of an era and left behind a story that continues to echo through time.